Fred, could you tell us about the early days of the VIPs, your beginnings in the music industry in East Los Angeles, please?
Well, in regards to the VIPs, basically I started the VIPs back in 1968, and all of us are from East Los Angeles. We were all just a bunch of groups of musicians from different groups, and I went out and kind of personally picked each one of them because I was looking for a certain something that would reflect kind of the sound of the day and the kind of feeling that I liked with music. At the time, I found a bunch of musicians, and I ended up with a kind of a big band. I had like about a 9-piece band, the VIPs with horns and everything, and we did a lot of variety of music, all the way anything. We could do anything, and that was basically the start of the seed for El Chicano.
Can you tell me about the transition period then between the VIPs and El Chicano? Did you become El Chicano due to Viva Tirado, or was that, there was obviously a political message in the name El Chicano. Tell us a bit about the name, how you made the transition, please.
In regards to the VIPs becoming El Chicano, it's kind of a unique story in a way. I always like to refer to it as being named by fate, because we really didn't name ourselves El Chicano. The group was named the VIPs. We were performing as the VIPs with the sound that you heard later on when we became El Chicano. A gentleman released Viva Tirado and kind of did it without us really knowing about it till afterwards, and he had already renamed the group El Chicano. We decided, well, all right, we'll just go with it since it was already a hit, and it was a little bit of a kind of a thing that we had to decide. So that's why I always refer to it as being named by fate. You know, I mean, I don't like, it's one of those type of things now where there's no sense in pointing fingers or slapping anybody across the hand or anything. It was all positive, it was all good, because if it wasn't for this guy or that guy or whoever, thank goodness for that. That's the way I see it, and I just always decided to turn everything towards a positive when that happened.
Can you tell us about the first record you did, which I believe was called, if I'm correct, Viva Tirado? Am I right there, Fred? It was called Viva Tirado. Tell us a bit about having your first record released, and a bit about the emergence of a Latin rock sound, how you feel about that now, what it signifies to you.
Well, when we first, actually the first record that the VIPs ever recorded was Viva Tirado. We went and did this recording session that was arranged by Bobby Espinosa's brother and a friend of his that had a little studio in Hollywood, and we were checking levels on the recording session that we agreed to do after playing all night long as the VIPs in a local nightclub, which we always did. And we went in and we just laid down that one track, and that was it. That was the beginning of it. And we just did it one take, and it became a hit.
Wow. Did you feel when you were recording that, you know, you'd obviously played that night, you then went on and recorded it. Did you feel while you were playing it that you were onto something significant? Did it feel, or did, you know?
Well, it was
after the event.
You know, when we recorded that song, we kind of knew that we had a sound, a certain technique. We hadn't recorded until that was the first time we actually recorded as a group, but collectively, we started to become aware of the sound that we had. People would come to see us perform nightly, and we used to do one whole set of the Latin jazz sound that came out with Viva Tirado. That sound with the B3, the West Montgomery guitar, congas, kind of a real melodic type bass patterns and stuff. That was our sound that we had, and we would use that music on the first set of every evening. And people would come in and fill that club up on the first set, and then after the first set was over, we'd start playing top 40 music, dance music and stuff, and they'd leave. And we used to go, geez, you know, these people really like this stuff. They really dig this, what we're doing. So we started to become aware that we had something there. and we started learning more songs with that particular style. We could turn any kind of song around, be it like the Beatles, be it whatever music was current at that time, and we would do it with that style. And it was a lot more fun for us because we were actually we were using other people's material, but we were actually being original because we were doing it with that sound, and we could turn things around because after the first set we would start doing the top 40 stuff, so that was kind of more kind of, we were copying records, to have people dancing and stuff. But that first hour always gave us freedom, and so when we went in to record, we decided, let's try that, since people really, really dig that stuff, let's do it. And we laid down Viva Tirado. Like I said, it was one take, and believe it or not, the machine broke right after that first take, and that song was done. And we walked away from it. Next thing we knew, we had a hit, and we became El Chicano.
Very good. On your first album and in your set at the time, you were doing everything from sort of like Eleanor Rigby to Cantaloupe Island by Herbie. Was that because of the sort of the 60s openness, or was that just stuff that you just liked? I mean, did you do it specifically for the audience? Because there was quite a wide mixture of music there, You were doing all kinds of stuff, really, weren't you?
In regards to our music choices of the time, all of us came from a real kind of diversified musical backgrounds. I mean, we had obviously we had Bobby Espinosa, who was very jazz orientated, kind of his idol was Jimmy Smith and stuff, and our guitar player, DeWest Montgomery, he liked that sound. Our conga player was into Mongo Santa Maria, and we just kind of like developed a sound with. It was just wide open at the time. We could do anything, and unbeknownst to us, I mean, we really weren't sitting there going, "Oh, let's do this, let's do that." It was just by fate that I put all these guys together. But let me tell you, man, I picked each one of these guys individually because each one individually had a very unique blend. The drummer was strictly jazz, kind of a Buddy Rich type beat. The conga player was Mongo Santa Maria orientated. Bobby, he had this certain technique on his keys that just, I don't know, I heard something there. And then Mickey with the West Montgomery sound gave us a very wide range. So we were able to just kind of like do everything. Music was really, really open at the time. It was a real good time to be a musician at that time because there was a lot of music going on. And since we became instrumentalists, it gave us a big opportunity to just about anything, and we really enjoyed it. It was a great band.
You're playing Viva, one of the numbers you're playing in the Voices of Latin Rock 5 show is Viva Tirada. Can you tell me what that number signifies to you now? I mean, obviously you're playing it because people know it, but apart from that, what does it signify to you today, Fred?
We're playing the Viva Tirado song tonight in the Voices of Latin Rock 5. And one of the important factors of that song for me personally is the fact that, has become an anthem to a lot of Chicanos, a lot of Latinos, and the crossover. I mean, whenever I start that bass pattern, right away the familiarity of it, the people, they get with it. I can see the pride in their faces, and it's just unbelievable how that song has been able to do something with that groove, and it just makes people feel, I guess it takes them back, I mean, it's just like in my day when I was listening to oldies but goodies, songs take you somewhere. This is one of those type of songs. That's what it means to me now, and I'm just really grateful that we're able to do that even up to this point in our time right now. Mm-hmm.
Just 1 second, Fred.
Am I explaining things correctly like you want?
Really
Awesome,
nice,
man.
really nice
Awesome.
answers.
You're
I
leading
love
in perfectly, and it's great. It's
So
great.
you're reflecting back the question, and
Yeah,
yes.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's the lead. Yeah, exactly what we need. So don't change a thing.
No.
Let me just open it out a little bit, Fred, to the wider scene. At that time, Fred, you were running parallel with the San Franciscan sound. You had the East. You were very much part of the East LA. I don't want to claim, but the East LA sound. What were your feelings at the time? Were you aware of an emergence of a Latin rock sound with Santana yourselves? and the other bands. What did that mean to you back then?
You know, I've been asked this a lot of times, you know, because people don't know that during that era, in the early, well, late 60s, the early 70s, the emergence of sound at that time, there was a lot of groups out there that were doing a lot of different things. And us being from Los Angeles, unbeknownst to us, there was actually another group just that, almost like us, that was doing their thing in San Francisco, which was Santana. We weren't even aware of any of the San Francisco type groups. You know, Los Angeles had their own thing going on. Even to this day, there's things that are being made that are about the East Side sound, because it was quite a big music scene over there. To be perfectly honest with you, we never were aware of, per se, you know, the San Francisco sound or you know, Santana or anything till later on when we became recording artists, and then we started to emerge into the marketplace. Santana hit right almost at the same time we did, and the sound similarity was based on just the sign of the times. There was a lot of groups out there that were using organ and rock guitars and stuff, but since they had the Latin beat, we had the Latin beat, we kind of hit it at the same time. There was a comparison there. There was, which, hey, it's a compliment to us. I mean, especially now with Carlos being a legend as he has become. And it just always made us proud that we were able to even have any kind of recognition that way. I think the key of it, one thing about El Chicano, that they were always really down to earth and just very, you know, respectful of other musicians that were out there, because our sound was based on positive, and it was always based with, that's how come our music always felt like it had a heart and a feeling to it. It was more important for us to play something that felt good, and it just, that was our technique. But we weren't really aware so much of the San Francisco sound, or, you know, we were from Los Angeles, and that's all we knew at the time. And later on we became aware of it. In fact, we were on the road several times. We crossed paths, and then we all looked at each other, and, you know, there was a little rivalry because you looked at each other, kind of like a sibling rivalry type thing, you know. It's like, well, but there was never any jealousy. There was never anything like that. It was all compliment type things. Even to this day, it still remains that way. It was music played from the heart.
Fred, 2 albums of yours, of the early band, of your recorded catalogue that I particularly like, that seem to me to be very cohesive and really hang together well as albums, are Celebration and Revolution. Could you just tell us a bit about recording those 2 records? They seem quite important in your catalogue, or at least they do to me. I don't know if you feel the same way. I'm sure you do. But tell us a bit about those, and just, you know, choices of material, memories perhaps of recording them, that sort of thing.
Well, in reference to you know, reference to our first album was all based on the Latin jazz sound. The second album, when we did Revolucion, we kind of became aware that we had to expand our music a little bit more, and it gave us a chance to do some vocals. It gave us a chance to do some writing, because we started writing our own music, and we did. We went into that, and then we also became a band of the people, because, you know, the El Chicano name, we stood behind it. The Revolucion album was a part of that whole thing, how we came across with it. But it was always being done in a positive vein, but we tried to expand our sound a little bit. And then when we went into the Celebration album, this is now we're road warriors. We had already been out doing concerts everywhere for a lot of different peoples all over the world. And we started to realize that we needed to create more powerful, more dynamic music that could be used in concerts where it was more high energy. And we decided in the Celebration to go that route. We went with a different way. We went with still writing, but more high energy. We added a timbalero, Rudy Regalado, to our sound, which was kind of like the missing link between our conga player and our drummer, because that's all we ever had before then. And once that happened, El Chicano expanded into the Celebration album. And if you listen to that, we still had a very wide diversification of music. I mean, we covered the Cream, we covered, you know, Van Morrison. We were still looking at a complement other people's music with our sound. But we, at that point in time, when we did the Celebration album, we had already gone into a whole different level. I mean, we were used to recording, we were used to playing, we were, you know, we knew what we had to have. We knew our sound and what we could do with it. And if you listen to the musicianship behind it, it was pretty excellent with a lot of the stuff that we did out there.
I agree. I think maybe just a couple of last things. One thing I'd like to ask you, Freddie, is just something about the future of Latin music, and then if there's anything you would like to say.
You just wait.
All right, okay. First of all, Fred, tell us what your feelings are about the future of Latin music in the next, say, 10, 20, 30 years, how you maybe see your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts about music right now, I mean, music is in a whole different vein, of course, you know, with all the new artists that are out there. It's a whole different technique, a whole different style. You know, you got rap music, and the music that we came out with at the time is kind of, it's gone into, I don't know, it's gone into its own corner. Radio stations obviously aren't playing these kind of things anymore like they used to in the olden days. I really can't forecast. You know, the only thing I can tell you is I just hope that the music stays true, and any upcoming musicians, you know, follow your heart. Be a dedicated musician like we always were, and just create a sound. Look for something that's unique, and be true to yourself. You know, you don't have to be the most educated musician to create something. My thought has always been, sometimes it's more difficult to be a simple, simplistic type music with simple things that people can understand. Doesn't have to be that complex. And hopefully music will go back into that vein where music is just kind of felt more than heard.
Thanks. Now, as far as we're concerned, that's it. But if there's anything else you want to add yourself, it's up to you.
Yeah, even a line or two about your relationship with Voices of Latin Rock. And,
I was just going to say that.
yeah, perfect, man. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, as far as El Chicano is concerned, the one thing that I'm really grateful for is, you know, I mean, I became involved with the Voices of Latin Rock, I think it was on their second year, and I got to meet Jim McCarthy and Dr. Bernard Gonzalez, Ron Sanso. I got to meet all the principal players that have made these things happen, and I was very proud to be a part of that with the group. I was one of the first people to sign on. Have always thought that it had a lot of worth. When the book came out, I thought that was fantastic, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity to have El Chicano here these last few times, and especially tonight. This was an important thing for us, and believe me, it's been a pleasure to be a part of the Voice of Latin Rock, and if there's anything else that the Voice of Latin Rock ever wants from El Chicano, we're here.